Okay, today for our photo tutorials, we are going to start assignment 2. You can see the past student examples up on the screen here. It's very similar to our contrast project, but this time we're trying to look at 3 distinct textures. And we still want to process them evenly, the same kind of color monochrome processing. But we want 3 distinct textures utilizing maximum contrast and maximum value range across all 3. As always, you can find the assignment sheet within the Canvas course. And on one page, it's a PDF. You can print it or view it on any device. It will outline everything we're trying to do. The tips I have for this is to take more shots than you need and edit down to the 3 that best highlight strong, diverse textures. You want to have your 3 exposures show variety and work well side by side. Try shots with and without flash. Do not use your black and white or sepia modes within your camera because it just dulls the sensitivity of your sensor. Instead, we process them in Photoshop. So I've gone out and I've taken my exposures. And now I took way more than 3. And I actually did it just on campus, kind of out in nature. And the challenge is to look at them without color being a factor. And I took a lot of shots, so I want to, and some which were failed in their settings and exposures, trying different things out. So instead of saving them all to my desktop, I'm opening them up on my memory card, and I'm just double-clicking to preview them in Preview. And I'm going to shrink my preview window using that bottom right-hand corner just enough so that I have desktop on this side that I can see. Okay, so I've got grass texture. Now, what I'm looking for are at least 3 distinct textures, but you can't have texture without good focus. So you also are checking your quality of focus on the images so that when you crop and process, even with taking all the color out, that you'll still have kind of a sharp texture component to it. And lighting quality, right? That you have lights and darks and all those values in between. So I do a lot of squinting. So if I were to crop this one, I'd probably use kind of this area, and the focus on the texture is strongest right in here. But then all the values and the lighting would show in the stuff that's softer. And then I got a few different exposures, some which are stronger. So this makes better use of the lighting. This one tries, but it actually makes worse use of the lighting. The exposure is a little bit overexposed. The visual content is there, but it wouldn't process very well. Okay, then I tried, texture of the bark of our oak trees out there, and tried different kind of focusing using a larger aperture, just getting segments of the bark in focus. I wanted to go to kind of a deep, soft shadow within the hole in that tree. Here I shifted the focus onto this weird kind of moss that was growing. It's almost a charcoaly texture. Again, I'm looking for value and focus and contrast. So of these, I don't know. I don't know if either of them really excites me yet. Okay, this is looking down at the tree and really getting the bark. And if you squint, I really like the value range here. So I think this is a pretty strong contender. And the deep focus pool as you look down the tree. So I'm going to pull that over. That might be the first one I look at. I'm going to try to select about 5. This is looking down a limestone rock, a similar method, and instead of focusing at the top like I did with the tree, up here and looking down, here I'm focusing instead on the bottom, at the rocks on the ground. But I don't think it uses lighting as well as it could. I did a more focused just on the face of the rock and tried to rake my flash across it. It could kind of work, but I think I could probably find something stronger. Maybe it's a little too similar to the texture of the bark as well. Some leaves, yeah, interesting, but maybe I can do better. I really like cactus, but again, squinting, it doesn't seem to have quite the value range I want or quite the visual power because there's so much out of focus in the background. So these other shots of cactus, that's fairly distinct. Squinting, it works pretty well in terms of value range. The focus is pretty good and strong. So this might have potential. This one, I focus more on the background or in the middle ground in between the background and the foreground here. These are really hard to try to determine in your LCD kind of preview window if you got the focus you want. So it's important to see them in preview here. Now this was the edge of this prickly pear cactus, and I really liked these kind of dead leaves. And so I focused on them, and I liked that texture, but I think I'm liking it more for color than for pure texture. But that might have some potential. They almost look like butterflies or moths to me. Then I tried some of these very severe shots looking at the prickly pear. Maybe a little too spare. They are distinct. And I tried some others with very, very limited shutter speeds because it was swaying in the wind a little bit, but it hurt my lighting a little too much. It is dramatic though, and these are with modified flashes. And I actually kind of really like this photo, especially if you put it that way. It kind of looks like a foreign world, but not good for this project. Just kind of your classic pretty flower shot, really emphasizing the texture of the petals and the inside here. It could have some good potential, but the problem with local colors as strong as orange and yellow and green is they're actually not going to process very bright. So the color kind of gets in the way there. This is looking at caked mud. There's no shortage of textures. That could work if I needed to, but it's pretty similar to the bark. Here, these spikes are a little bit stronger. I don't know if they have the value range yet. Same with those. So lots of experiments. I really did like the texture of these Seiko palms once they're dried out. And so I think squinting, these will have some good potential. Some going in and out of focus. I think my favorite one is this one. So I'll pull that over. Remember, you've got to get outside, go places where you haven't really examined visually to get some new examples. This is from a living palm tree, and you've got all this kind of spidery stuff. I liked that a lot, shot that a few different ways. And I think this has some good potential for value range too, especially with the light pouring out. Okay, then I was looking at different tree barks, letting the light kind of spill across them, right? You get a lot of texture that way. I still think that one's probably more powerful. I liked these, I think they're called air plants, but this ball moss that grows in the trees. Nice texture, but it's pretty similar to this one. And I'm looking for distinct textures. And that exposure, you know, shooting up into the sky got a little bright. Oh, that's pretty darn strong for the spikes, so maybe I'll pull that one over. Then bushes, plastic bags, more reflective, water bottles, caked leaves, more trees, rocks, water, roots, trees again. This one's probably the strongest of the tree exposures, so I'll pull that over just in case. More ball moss, a single leaf, which is a beautiful texture study in and of itself, but I don't think has the value range I want. Ants, and now some more man-made things like gum on the side of a trash can. The trash bag, the sidewalk, the chain on a fire hydrant, all these good things. Okay, so more man-made kind of textures. It's hard to compete with nature, though, in terms of visual interest. Though I did like some of the peeling paint. But then I went to the parking lot, and you get the reflective. I decided I wanted something kind of more reflective. So shooting kind of tail lights, which can be tricky to focus on. So you'll see that it focuses at different depths. So this one's fairly strong. Move that over. And then the inside of tail lights. Lots of values and textures there that could be used. So especially in this project, just shooting a variety, that's probably one of my better rock exposures. That one's pretty good too. Shooting a variety is extremely important, but it can be tough to narrow it down. Because we're not just shooting for the individual shots, we're shooting for the series of 3 distinct textures. All right, so that's what I shot, and then I think these are my most likely candidates. So let's try to narrow these down now. Whoops. And this is where group partners can be really helpful to you. I'm going to narrow it down first to 5, and then hopefully to 3. Or I could always just process all 5 and then make the final decisions after they've been made black and white. So you guys are going to help me. So first I'm going to try to kind of categorize them into similar textures. So to me this is pretty similar to this. I guess that's pretty distinct from that. So between these two, which one do you guys think has more potential for a black and white square composition? It does. It goes a little brighter with the local color, which is helpful. Yeah, I think as I squint, the light's fairly direct on this, and even though I see all that visual content really clearly, I think as soon as I start to maximize those, it's going to start to blast out. But I just love, I don't know, I love how much it looks like a landscape.
Right. You could probably crop that to where it would,
Yeah, just within one of those areas.
fit your contrast.
And this to me just feels more unusual. I like it when a photograph, you can't tell exactly what you're looking at.
Right.
So I think this one has the edge for me. So I'm going to mark that one, and I'm going to do that by marking it with a color. So number 813. Mark that with a yellow. That's a contender right now. And you can play in preview with rotating your images with Command L or Command R, or using this. Oh, I always think that that's what it is. No, never mind. You can rotate under Tools as well. Command L, Command R. Okay, now this cactus versus this cactus. What do we think? Which one do we like better? Again, we'll be zooming in and cropping. So to me, this is like the strength of this texture. This area here.